Cold calling is a part of the sales game. I mean, it's just a part of the process. Doing it is not as easy as it sounds. And on today's episode, my friend Larry Long Jr. is going to tell us about how you go about doing it, even if it's challenging. You're going to love this one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Mr. Larry Long Jr. coming back for another great episode. Larry is an author. He is a keynote speaker, an MC. And Larry, my friend, just has a new podcast that he's hosting. It's called the Cold Calling Podcast. I get the opportunity to be a guest on that show, and pretty soon you'll be able to listen to that one and see that in the episodes. We have a link down to this show that you can find this podcast in the show notes, so please go ahead and connect with Larry. Check out that show. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist. Today, Larry and I are going to talk about cold outreach, like specifically cold call, picking up the phone, calling a prospect. It's one of those things that's hard to do, right? It sounds easy, but doing it is challenging. And Larry's going to tell us how we can go about doing that. He has a funny story that he shared that he got from a prospect, a story, his interaction with a prospect, and what this prospect said to him and how this impacted him when it came to selling, but what he did to get past it. I'm not giving you anything else. If this is your first time listening to the show or watching our video, this podcast is designed to do a couple things. One, help you to be able to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline, and 2, help you to double your close rate. Listen to this episode and see how we can help you to do so. Let's dive in. Larry Long Jr., welcome back to the show, man.
Come on, Donald. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back. Ooh-wee.
Ooh, it's going to be a good day. It's a good day. Larry, you've been doing some amazing things. You wrote a book. You have a new show you're hosting. Your business is taking off. I mean, you're out there. It's like you're everywhere. Talk to me about them and tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and your business for those who didn't get a chance to be here round one when you came on the show.
First of all, thank you for having me back. Donald, I've been so blessed and fortunate. Keynote speaker, MC, coach. I've been helping folks one-on-one with performance coaching, sales, business, entrepreneurship, training, sales training. Been really fortunate there. Content creator, imagine that. LinkedIn influencer, what does that mean? It's just been a whole lot of fun. And most recently, I've added event host with the Golf and Sales series. And even more recent, this is hot off the press, I've been able to host a podcast. I'm following in your footsteps, called the Cold Calling Podcast. It should be the Ice Cold Calling Podcast, because that's what we're about to get into.
It's one of those things that, I mean, Larry, you've just done, like, I remember when the first time we were connecting and what you came on our show and you pumped us up and you had some thoughts about that. Some people talk and they talk the talk, but not a lot of people can actually walk the walk. Like you talked about it, you set the vision, you set a plan, and you went and you chartered a course towards that plan and you accomplished it. And it's pretty remarkable. And if anyone that's listening haven't connected with you and they didn't find you on LinkedIn and send you a message and have them tell you that story, because I know that it's been a remarkable journey. And like you shared, and it's fantastic. You're inspiring, motivating, and uplifting for many of us. So thank you for doing that, man.
Man, it takes one to know one. It's been a journey. It's been an adventure, but I'd be remiss to say it hasn't been a misadventure as well. It's kind of like this game we call life, of the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the twists, the turns. But I can tell you this, it's been a whole lot of fun, because who doesn't have fun learning, meeting new people, learning some more, and then being able to apply those learnings to actual game situation. When the lights turn on, what do? And sometimes you hit a home run, and other times you strike out, which no one likes to strike out. I don't like to strike out, but I love the learnings I get from the strikeouts, being able to share those with others.
Well, and that's what I really want us to like segue into this conversation with today, because like you said, sometimes you hit a, maybe you get to hit a good single, maybe you strike out, maybe you get some fouls, or perhaps you get a couple homers in there. The point though is that you're at bat and you're doing it. The challenge that I find, especially as a sales professional, when I first started off, I had those days, Larry, where it was just sluggish. Your new podcast, it's all around cold calling, and I feel that there's a lot of wisdom that you've probably gleaned from some of your guests so far that you can help us out with. But let's talk about that. The biggest hurdle that salespeople have when it comes to cold calling is
Just do it. And I'm not
just do
sponsored
it.
by Nike
Come on.
yet, but like they say, hey Nike, the check is in the mail. You got to just do it. It's great to
Yeah.
think about it. It's even awesome to plan, but it's
Yeah.
awesomer. I'm just making up words. It's awesomer
I like that.
to
Let's go.
actually pick
Put
up
it in
the
a
phone,
dictionary right now.
dial, and have a conversation with someone. That's where the magic really happens. That's where the learnings, when you can either have success or you can learn, I might not want to try that approach. I'm going to share a quick story. I had an accountant. I used to
Let's
make
go.
150 ice cold calls every day to accounting firms. This gentleman, I'll never forget, from New Jersey, he said, "Hey, Larry, I got something for you." I thought I was about to get a sign up. He said, "I want you to put on a pair of concrete shoes and jump off a bridge." I said, "Oh,
Ooh.
savage." I went through our manual to find how do you overcome the jump off a bridge objection. It wasn't in there. So I said, the first thing that came to my mind, I was just improv. And I said, "God bless you too." And then I hung so what I learned is that he didn't have a beef with me. He didn't even know
Yeah.
me. He was having a bad day. And it's my responsibility to really take it, brush myself off, and keep serving people. So that's what it's about. Sales is about service. It's about helping
Yeah.
other people solve their problems and just being empathetic, which sounds good, but when you put it into practice, it's amazing.
And I think the reason is we were just talking about golf earlier too, Larry. Like my game ain't that pretty, but it's fun. I enjoy the game of golf. One of the things though is like the other day I had a couple pars in a row. Man, I felt good, man. It's just like I was doing all right. The issue though is you have those days and those moments, those swings that just like you slice, or it's just like doesn't, you missed a green and you're in the sand trap, and you feel like the good times when you're a novice is few and far between, as opposed to the great times if you've done it so often that you're pretty consistent at it. I find that with cold calling, so often we see ourselves missing and messing up, and the fear of not doing it right or not getting the outcome that we want, getting to head into the green or having a good drive, that we don't do it. We talk ourselves out of it. Am I off on that? Am I right? Give me some of your thoughts.
You're spot on, Donald, and I'm going to hit a couple of things. The
Let's go.
story that we're telling ourselves, and I can only
Mm.
speak for myself, but I call this voice Cletus. Cletus wants to tell me all the things that I can't do, all the things I'm not good at. You ain't nothing. And I had a coach, Coach Kristen Frade, who said, "Larry, it's spectacular how uplifting, how positive you are when it comes to everyone else. When you start talking about yourself, womp womp, you speak more trash, talk more trash, and talk down to yourself more than you would ever talk to anyone else or allow them to talk to you." So my
Yes.
encouragement, and I'm practicing what I preach, it's an everyday challenge to give myself grace, to speak myself up, and to have the perspective that, yes, I might have fear. That's okay. And through that fear, I'm still going to do it. Now, some people might say, "Oh, you crazy." And maybe I am, but it's fun. You learn, you take your lumps and you say, "Hey, you know what? Come on, Cletus. I'm gonna knock you off my shoulder and I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep getting hit and hit and hit and still persist." And that's why it's so important to have supportive folks around you. Who are people
Yeah.
that are pumping you up, cheering you on? Hercules, Hercules. When the going gets tough, the tough got to get going. So with making cold calls, I can think of every excuse for every day that ends in Y. I got an excuse for every day. But at some point, you've got to just go and do it.
Yeah. So I love this idea of having that support system, having people that motivate you, having people that that challenge you, that inspire you to take the action and take the steps necessary. Do you mentioned Cletus and how you have that negative talk, the positive self talk. Do you have any affirmations that you say to yourself in preparation for your cold outreaches?
I don't have positive affirmations. But to counteract Cletus is I lost my father 7.5, going on 8 years. And I'll
Sorry for your loss.
No, it's okay. We're all marching to that finish line, which is why it's so important to carpe diem each and every day. But I was going through a slump in baseball, one for my first 24 in college. That's for any math majors, that's .048. That'll get you sitting on the bench, or it might be .044. Ooh. I might just be trying to boost myself up. But I was feeling sorry for myself. And my dad asked me, how am I feeling? I said, I feel terrible. I don't belong in the ACC. I don't belong in Division I. My dad jumped through that phone and he said, boy, he yoked me up. He had some choice 3 and 4 letter words. You can use your imagination. But he said, we don't roll like that. If you want to have my name, Larry Long Jr., you better change your attitude, your perspective, and the words that come out of your mouth. Get back to the drawing board and let's work hard. Hard work cures all. Lo and behold, Father knows best. I got back practicing. I don't know if Allen Iverson is listening, but I started to practice. Not the game. And then I also started to change my mindset. I had a couple breaks. University of North Carolina came to town. I got a blue pit. And you couldn't tell me nothing. I was on top of the world. I think they call that the big mo. I had I had the big momentum going in my favor, and I started to believe in my head and my heart. I started to have that swagger like George Jefferson, that I was somebody, and it was just amazing. So that's the voice that comes back to me when things get tough. And as an entrepreneur out here selling on these mean streets, it's not all rainbow sunshines and unicorns. It is tough. No. But that's the voice that I really call back on. I do want to share something because the company you keep is so important. And it's important to make sure you don't play the comparison game. Sometimes we compare someone's 20th chapter to our 3rd chapter. So we see
Can you repeat that one more time for the people in the back? One more time for the folks in the back.
That's right. Be careful of playing the comparison game. And I don't like to give people instructions, but I'm going to tell you, don't compare yourself to someone else because you don't know what their 3rd, 4th, 5th chapter look like when they're at their 20th chapter. And I'm guilty of this. I'm at my 2nd chapter as an entrepreneur. And I look at other people that are in their 20th and 30th chapter, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. You need to stick to the plan, have your purpose, have your why, work hard, and you're going to be okay. It takes time. I think they say patience, young Padawan. But I know, like a lot of people, I'm not patient. I want it. We live in a microwave society. I want it today, but slow down.
Let's go.
Larry. Slow down.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a very good point there, Larry. Like I've done that too. Especially looking at it from a sales rep's perspective. You look at some of the team members that are, you're participating in Slack, and you hear people who are putting up numbers, or you hear them ringing the gong or hitting the bell, and you're like, dang man, what am I doing? But dude's been doing this for a minute. He or she may have had some good experience that you didn't have. You just go and you figure out what can I like. You don't compare to that, but what did I do yesterday that I can learn from? And then also going back to like what you said is having the team members going to that source and saying, Lisa, man, I love what you're doing. I saw how you're booking demos every day. Can you give me some ideas? Here's what I'm doing. Can you see if you give me some feedback on and let me know what I can improve on? I'll pay for your lunch or whatever. But the point is you learn and you grow. And I think that's one of the best characteristics that we can have when it comes to like that self-improvement that you're coming at. It's like, did I improve from yesterday? And if I didn't, then shame on me for that.
You're spot on, Donald. You couldn't have said it better. There's a picture of the Olympics. It was back when Michael Phelps was killing the game. And I think it was the South African swimmer looking over at Michael Phelps. And I know I'm going to mess up the quote, but it said something to the effect of winners focus on winning, losers, and I'm not calling anyone a loser, but losers focus on winners. You got to stay in
Yeah.
your lane and focus on being the best, the most excellent that you can be. And yes, you want to learn from others, but keep your eyes on your prize. Stay focused on your purpose, and you're going to be okay. Run your game plan, run your race. I know that you got that background in track, looking like
Rude
Usain Bolt
boy.
up in here. You stay focused. Yes, you're going to be a-okay. And it's having
Yeah.
that comfort, that belief, still being hungry. I'm not saying
Yeah.
to just relax and feel the dreams. If you build it, it will come. You still got to work hard, but stay focused on you. Do you, boo-boo, and you're going to be a-okay.
You know, I want to come back to this too, Larry, because in that idea, like, you know, focusing on you, and I'm thinking, let's go back to that call that you had when, you know, dude tell you to put on cement shoes and jump off the bridge. Like, you know, you have your things that guide you, but how do you physically get back in and just do it after that? Do you stop? And I want to know what you do. You stop, breathe, you walk around, do you just like brush it off, like physically brush it off? Like, what do you do so I can know to get back and pick up that darn phone?
Yeah, for me, and I'll never forget, the gentleman's name was Casey Gallo, who sat. He was in the little cubicle next to me. I said, Casey, you'll never believe what this guy said. We had a good laugh, and then he looked at me. I looked at him, and he was like, "Go on to make that next call," because the last thing you want to do is dilly dally. For some
Yeah.
people, it might be taking a walk, but time is of the essence. And if you find you got to find some way to cope, but you also got to make sure that you only have a certain amount of time to dial. So for me, it's sharing with someone else. And then I think they call it Fido. That's not the name of my dog. My dog's name was Shaq. But Fido stands for F it. You can use your imagination for what the F is. F it, drive on. You got to keep moving. Hey, on to the next one. Because for me, how do I serve? And I'll just be honest with you, Donald. Accountants, I got to use my fingers to count. My why
Yeah.
was to help the small business owners that needed the accountant to explain to them what the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows, what that actually meant to their business, so they didn't end up out of business like me. I used to own an indoor baseball softball academy. I knew the wrong numbers, batting averages, home runs, stolen bases, RBIs. I didn't know the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flows. We went out of business. Yeah. So my purpose was to help the small business owners through the accountant. So that meant you got to pick up that phone and make that next call, or else that next small business owner is going to end up out of business and crying and down in the dumps like you.
Yeah. Go back to the beginning, what you said. This is all about solving problems and serving people. And I see that full circle now, because especially when you're making that cold call, it is way more than the cold call. I found oftentimes, Larry, when I don't do the cold call, I'm focused on the wrong person. I'm focused on me and what my feelings could be like if somebody rejects me, and the likelihood of this happening, where it's, you know, that the world's going to end because somebody hypothetically could get mad at me or could reject me, like Mike, you know, call it's like it's not going to be that big of a deal, but I make it such a big deal that I forget about what is supposed to be the big deal: solving Mary's problem that she has that potentially could cause her business. When you look at the greater outcome and the solutions that you have, it becomes that moral obligation that you have this desire now, like, I need to help them, and that outweighs any of the no's that I might receive now, because that is minuscule. My feelings, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm pushing on, you know, you're not supposed to have feelings, but my hypothetical feelings of what could go wrong should not diminish the potential of the good that I can cause to happen. I don't know if I'm making sense with this, Larry.
You're spot on, man. I love what you said about your desire. I love what
Yeah.
you talked about in terms of your purpose. I love your
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And from a great book that I read, Sell It Like a Mango, I think
Where'd you buy that book? Where'd you buy that book?
you share a story about the whole paintball. Yeah, pop, 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 pop,
Oh
pop.
man.
Yeah. So I mean, you're preaching it. Now
Yeah.
it's a lot more challenging. I will recognize it's a
Yeah.
lot tougher to do it than to talk about it. However, it's just like anything in life, riding a bike, learning to walk, learning a new sport. The more you try it and the more that you work that muscle, the better you're going to get. And the more comfortable you'll get, the more you'll realize that the world isn't going to come to an end. Even if someone tells
Yeah.
me to jump off a bridge, it's okay. And the
Yeah.
satisfaction comes from, you know what? I took that lump and I kept going. And I
Yeah.
kept going. And I shared the keys to my success with someone else so that they can keep going. I don't know if you know this, Donald, but the message you wrote for me in your book came at a time when I needed to hear that encouragement. Because
Oh.
for me, writing my book, it was more than a challenge. I mean, it was more than a challenge. I had all the reasons in the world to give up, to not keep going. It was very tough, but that word
Yeah.
of encouragement, and I think they say the little things, and I wouldn't even call that
Mm.
little, but it's really the big things and the impact that we have on people. So many times we don't even realize it. But I want you to know that that message.
Oh man, I didn't much know all this, Larry.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to hear about your success with your book. Those I'm looking at it verbatim. Congrats on the amazing accomplishment. It meant the world, man. So I just
Mm.
encourage all your listeners to continue making it about serving someone else. It's not about us. As much as we want to, it's not about us. It's about
No.
what can we do for someone else. And there's a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that I love. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing to help someone else out? That's the game that we're playing. That's the world that we live in right there, from my perspective.
Oh my goodness. I love that. So good, Larry. Oh my. Man, listen, y'all, this is you just need to pick up the phone. You just need to pick up the phone. Pick up that phone, Larry. Is it heavy?
Just do it. It's 500 pounds, but I think they say it hurts so good. So I encourage
It
folks,
hurts so good.
just do it. Pick up the phone, and it does a body good. It does a
Mm.
business good. And when you incorporate that with the calls, the emails, the voicemails, the social, the referrals, the handwritten notes, ooh, in the words of the great philosopher, J.J. Walker, dynamite!
Oh man, Larry, if you're listening to this episode and you're not pumped to go pick up the phone, something is wrong. Larry, this is amazing. Talk to us about your show, Larry. Tell us a little bit more about the structure and what can we expect when we go over and listen to it.
Yeah, so brutally honest, I've done 2 episodes so far and I haven't picked up the
Uh-huh.
phone. Hold up, wait a minute,
Oh
Larry
snap!
Houston, we have a problem. It's called the Cold Calling Podcast and you haven't made any calls, Larry? Well, that's the challenge. I'm even faced with that challenge of picking up the phone, and I've come up with every excuse in the book. And guess what? Your boy Donald Kelly's going to be joining. It's going to be the first time I make some cold calls. And if we're lucky, we're going to get Donald to make some phone calls as well.
Let's go.
The
Let's
whole
go, Larry.
concept,
I'm ready.
it's a traditional podcast followed
Yeah.
by me making cold calls, the guests listening in and sharing feedback on, hey, you did this okay. Here goes some opportunity areas, some things that I would do differently so that we can learn and grow together. And it's amazing because when you do practice in front of your peers, that's some of the most uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sweating over here just thinking about it, but I'm also excited because I know that's where you grow. When you get out of your comfort zone and you put yourself out there, there's only great things that can come from it. It might sting in the moment, but that means that you're getting that growth. The Cold Calling Podcast, tune in. It's live every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Whew.
Donald Kelly's going to be joining coming up. By the time this comes out, you're going to have to go back and check out the reruns, but
Let's go.
We love it.
I'm excited for it. Guys, we're going to put a link down in the show notes so you can get access to that, but you got to do it. Please connect with Larry again. I promise you it's going to be he's going to give you the motivation, inspiration, and guidance you need every single day from the content that he has. One of those individuals that you'll be, it's great to have in your network because everyone needs to know Larry. Larry, thank you for gracing us today with your insights. Thanks so much for supporting the pod and for your constant encouragement. We appreciate you.
Donald, appreciate you. Thank you.
That was Larry Long Jr. Go ahead and tell Larry that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist. I'm super excited to be able to have Larry on. He's just so infectious with his energy and excitement, dude. I just feel like every time I talk to Larry, I can go do something amazing, like actually pick up the phone and do some cold calls. Go ahead and tell Larry you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist Podcast and how much you appreciate him. And also download his podcast, man. Go listen to that show. I'm telling you, it's going to be really good. All the guests that he's bringing on so far, again, and get an opportunity to be there. They're doing live cold calls as well and giving feedback. And it's really fun. So check out all the information, all the details for that show. Again, our show is simple. We want to teach you how we can help you to build 3 to 5x your pipeline and also help you to close more deals, to double your close rate. We want to be able to help you to do so. Listen to our content, take our LinkedIn course, or join one of our cohorts, and let us break that process down for you. Until next time, go out and do big things.